Hey everyone, it's Radish again, and I have some exciting news. I'm going back to the dirtbag lifestyle, at least for a little bit. I'll be through hiking the Olympic Peninsula this July for 3 weeks. It's about 250 miles along the Pacific Northwest Trail. The Pacific Northwest Trail, or the PNT, is another national scenic trail similar to the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, see my 2020 through hike above, or the Continental Divide Trail. This is actually America's newest national scenic trail, signed into law under Obama in 2009. The concept of the PNT is to follow a raindrop as it falls on the top of the Continental Divide at Glacier National Park and rolls westward down the watershed, up and over the North Cascades, across Seattle and the Puget Sound, up and over the Olympic Peninsula, and out to its final resting spot in the Pacific Ocean. At this point in the PNT's life, it's more of a route than a full-on trail. It's a cobbling together of a bunch of existing trails, some more used than others, backcountry logging roads, and some roadwalks. So I'm not expecting this to be nearly the hiker highway that the Pacific Crest Trail has become. So the Pacific Northwest Trail in total is about 1,200 miles, and I'll be hiking about a 250-mile section of it. This is actually the final section of the trail, starting in Glacier National Park and ending in the Olympic Peninsula out at Cape Alava. So I'll be hiking the final 250 miles of that stretch. So starting at the easternmost point of this section, I'll be hiking westbound to the westernmost point of this section and the PNT in general. So my through hike of the Olympic Peninsula is going to be split up into 4 sections. The first is Puget Sound. So we'll be taking the Amtrak up from Portland to Seattle, and from there we're going to be taking a ferry across the Puget Sound to the easternmost point of the Olympic Peninsula, Port Townsend. And this is where we'll start our through hike. So for the first section of this trail, it's about 44 miles through small port towns and fishermen villages as we slowly ascend into the foothills of the Olympic Mountains. The land that we'll be traveling in this section is Jefferson County Parks, Olympic Peninsula State Forests, and Olympic National Forests. Section 2 of my through hike of the Olympic Peninsula is going to be the high route. Now this is going to be the peak of the trail, both physically and metaphorically. This section of trail is about 90 miles, showcasing really the best that the Olympics have to offer and all of their rugged glaciated peaks and pristine alpine lakes. Starting where section 1 left off at the foothills of the Olympics, the land that we'll be traveling on for this section is going to be the Olympic National Forest, into the Buckhorn Wilderness, and of course the Olympic National Park. This section is also going to be our first resupply as we hitch into the trail town of Port Angeles. Section 3 of trail is going to be the Hoh Rainforest. Descending out of the alpine terrain of the High Divide and into the western mountains of the Olympics, we're going to be following the Bogachiel and the Hoh River and their lush rainforest for 64 miles as we follow the rivers draining the glaciers down and out to the Pacific Ocean. This section is going to see our second resupply as we hitch into the small trail town of Forks, which you might recognize from the Twilight movies and books. This stretch of trail is going to have us travel through the Olympic National Park and the Bogachiel State Park. The fourth and final section of our through hike across the Olympic Peninsula will take us up the Wilderness Coast. Picking up where section 3 left off at the mouth of the Hoh River, we're going to be traveling north for about 50 miles along the Wilderness Coast to the westernmost point in the lower 48 states, Cape Alava. This section has us travel along the federally protected and rugged coastline, walking along beaches and tidal headlands. This trail takes us through the Olympic State Forest, Willie Huell State Park, Quileute Needles National Wildlife Refuge, Quileute Indian Reservation, and back into the Olympic National Park. This section is going to take a little bit more careful planning as many of these headlands we have to cross actually have tidal restrictions that we'll need to carry tide charts to map out our course. Many headlands are only accessible in the lowest of tides, which may only be for a few hours every few days. This section may or may not see our third and final resupply in the tribal town of La Push. This town has been closed to outsiders for about a year and a half now. Anyone who lives off the reservation is not welcome during the COVID pandemic. Now, with restrictions starting to lift this summer of 2021, things might change as we go into our hike, but as of now, a week before we start our hike, La Push is still closed to outsiders, so there's a good chance we actually won't be able to do our final resupply there, and we will have longer food carries to deal with coming from Forks. The PNT isn't like the PCT. It doesn't have a National Scenic Trail corridor permit that is an all-inclusive permit to take you from Mexico to Canada. The PNT makes you hobble together local permits for all the different parks you'll be crossing through. So that makes the permitting process for this hike just a little bit more impractical. So I had to work individually with rangers up at the Olympics Wilderness Information Center, who were very helpful, but it's still a tedious process because you actually have to go and reserve a bunch of these campsites you'll be staying at since they are in high-use quota areas, which is great to preserve the pristine conditions of that area, but as a through hiker, not really planning out the mileage that you're going to be doing each day, it does make the logistics of planning a through hike along the Pacific Northwest Trail just a little bit harder. Now we'll be through hiking the Olympic Peninsula from the easternmost point to the westernmost point in mid-July. So believe it or not, it'll still be early season there. And this winter, the rangers said they had 130% snowpack compared to the average year. And the melt has just begun. So we'll most likely have plenty of snow-covered passes, but also snow-free valleys, which means we might need to carry an ice axe, but we'll definitely be carrying micro spikes. Other than that, our gear is very similar to what I carried on the PCT. I upgraded a few items, I'm trying out some new systems. Now we do have to carry bear cans according to Olympic National Park regulations, and we will have to be carrying tide charts to deal with the wilderness coast. Check out my lighter pack page below to see all the details about what I'll be carrying and the weights of the individual items. You can still check out my Pacific Crest Trail lighter pack page on my main page below as well, and you can compare what I took on the PCT in 2020 to what I've upgraded and changed for the PNT in 2021. Now I'm really excited because for this through hike, I'm actually going to be teaming up with someone. So you folks might remember Wildcat, who I met up with on the Pacific Crest Trail in 2020 in a desert section, and we hiked for about a week together. Well, she has been posted up in Kennedy Meadows helping out a bunch of 2021 PCT through hikers, and now that the bubble has passed through the Sierras, she's going to be taking a road trip up to meet me in Portland, and we're going to be doing this full hike together.
Hey, it's Wildcat. I am going on a run right now, trying to get ready for this epic 200-mile hike I'm doing with Radish. And yeah, just getting ready to go from LA to the Olympics and have a good old hike. It's been a while. See you soon, Radish.
Now, once we get to Seattle, we're also meeting up with a third person. Her name is Nacho. You again might remember her from the Pacific Crest Trail in 2020.
Hi, my name is Nacho. I live in Seattle, and in 2020 I hiked the desert section of the PCT along with some of the Sierras. I'm super excited to get back on trail with Radish and Wildcat because they're always a hoot and we always have a good time.
I met both of them on trail back in the desert and we became good friends, so I'm really excited to hike with both of them again. Now, Nacho's only going to be doing about a day or two with us before she has to head back to work, but Wildcat and I will be continuing along the trail all the way to Cape Alava. It's been almost a full year since I finished my through hike of the Pacific Crest Trail in 2020. And I've been having tons of fun here in Portland, exploring the mountains, getting into mountaineering, and getting to know the community here. But I'm really excited to get back out on trail for a longer distance trip and get to experience trail life once again. So make sure, if you are not already, subscribe to the channel below so that you can get notifications as I post updates from the trail. I'm planning on posting probably about 4 or 5 videos along the trail for each section. So again, if you click the subscribe button below, you'll get notified when I post all those, and you can follow along as I hike from Port Townsend, following a raindrops path from the Continental Divide out to the Pacific Ocean. Well, that's all for now, folks. I'll see you on trail real soon. Goodbye.